guys, Jared, Transformational Coaching, Action is Transformation. In this video, we're going to get into why do I overgive? And this is part 2. So if you saw part 1, which I did a couple days ago, part 2 is going to go a little bit deeper into the concept of why we overgive. Now in part 1, I shared with you that we overgive because we ultimately want something from another person. And we might not necessarily know what it is that we want, but we just know we want something from them. And so we think that we have to manipulate or give in order to get something from them. And now, I don't think there's an issue with this in business. I think it's always important to recognize that in business we have to give a lot in order to receive at first, and that's how we create the relationship. But in romance and in friendship, we want it to be a little bit different. We want to be in our power, know what it is that we want, be very clear about what it is that we want, and then be bold and ask for what it is that we want right off the bat. So in this video, I'm going to share with you, 1, how to be clear about what it is that you want, 2, the reasons why we're not clear about what it is that we want and how that relates back to childhood trauma, and then 3, how asking clearly for what it is that we want reduces stress and makes the relationship more enjoyable. I was looking at some of the statistics the other day on stress and how much stress is created by relationship. And when we look at the statistics, the American Institute of Stress says that about 33% of people report feeling extreme stress just generally in their life. 77% of people experience stress that affects their physical health. And then 73% of people have stress that impacts their mental health and relationships. So 3 out of every 4 people in America have stress in their life that is affecting their relationships. And all stress is our worries, our anxieties, and our fears playing out. The world would be so much less of a stressful place to live if we knew what it is that we needed and wanted in a relationship, and we were able to communicate that clearly and concisely without expecting another person just to read our minds. I shared in part 1 of Overgiving that many of the times we don't know how to ask for what it is that we need in a relationship because we're scared. We're scared because in our childhood, if we asked for what it is that we wanted, we either got rejected or we were made to feel shame or guilt for having needs. And so we learn to swallow our voice and not speak up for what it is that we need. And if that's the case in your relationship, well, then it's important to, 1, work with a coach or a therapist or a mentor, someone who's willing and knowing how to pull that out. Because it's whenever I see with clients, it's always stuck here in the throat. Or just to do the necessary inner work with yourself, ask yourself questions like, when was the first time that I felt like I wasn't heard? When was the first time that my needs weren't met by my family members? Ask yourself those questions and then see what comes up for you. The other reason why we don't speak up for what it is that we need, because sometimes we just don't know what our needs are. Emotional intelligence isn't something that's taught to us in schools. Well, in a lot of schools, it's not taught to us. It's not taught in society where you focus on science, technology, engineering, math. So emotional intelligence is something that a lot of people, especially men, have trouble with because they just were never taught it, or they didn't have good examples growing up. Their parents fought, the parents had issues, and there's divorce. The divorce rate in America is over 50%, and a lot of that is just because we don't have the emotional intelligence. People say that relationships are hard and tricky, but ultimately they're really not that hard. We just need to have the right emotional intelligence, and once we have the emotional intelligence and we have the training and the skill sets, they're not that complicated. Then it's just maintaining. It really comes down to that. So stress is a big factor in relationship and why we overgive, but there's also other things. It's just not being taught what it is that we need to know and learn in terms of emotional intelligence. I would love to see the world and our country get to a place where emotional intelligence is upheld just as importantly as science, technology, engineering, and math. If we lived in a world like that, there would be a balance between the masculine and feminine energy, and you would see there'd be a lot more peace in the world. There'd be less stress. There'd be a lot more enjoyment of life, and there'd be less relationship issues. This study, I cite it all the time. It's the longest running study ever done by Harvard University. It's 75 plus years. They found, studying all these men over 75 plus years, every single year, they did blood tests, interviewed them, reportedly across the board, no matter where people were from in society. Some of these men were rich, some of them were poor, some of them went from being really rich to poor, then back to rich again, and vice versa. They found that human well-being and happiness comes from our ability to have relationships. So we need to have those relational skills. So if we're over-giving in a relationship, sometimes it's just we don't know what it is that we want, so we're just giving and giving and giving, expecting something. So it's important to ask ourselves, what is it that we really need out of a relationship, and can we communicate that with our partner? Sometimes we don't know what we need. Other times we do know what we need, but we're afraid to communicate it, and we don't know how to communicate it. Or we do have both of those things, and we communicate it, but our partner isn't willing. One of my clients, she's awesome. She has such a high amount of awareness of what she needs in relationships. She's not afraid to communicate it, but she's always dating men who don't have the capability to reciprocate that. And so she gets really frustrated and angry with them, and then they get frustrated and angry with her, and then they go back and forth. So make sure that your partner actually has the capability to be the person that you want them, that you need them to be. Make sure they have the capability to be there for you in ways that you want them to be there for you. That's what relationships are about. We want people in our life who are willing to show up for us and support us emotionally, mentally, and all these other ways. And if our partners aren't showing up in that way, then when we might get resentful or we might get upset, and that eventually might play out in the relationship. And you can avoid all of that when you, one, know what it is that you want and need, then two, are able to communicate what it is that you want and need, and then three, make sure that your partner's capable of actually giving you those needs and desires and wants. So sometimes we just overgive without knowing it because we just don't really know how to do any of those. And sometimes we can do all of them and we still don't get what it is that we want from the relationship. And if that's the case, then it's time to move on to a new relationship and admit the truth. You can love someone, care for someone deeply, but also come to the realization that they're not able to offer what it is that you need, and they're not capable, they don't have the skill sets to be the person that you want them to be. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people just move a little bit slower, others evolve a little bit faster. And if you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't have that capability, don't try to change them and don't try to make them something that they're not, because they're going to end up hating and resenting you for it. I've done that, and I've learned that the hard way. So asking yourself this question, what is it that I'm truly trying to get from this relationship? And can I give it to myself? Because guys, sometimes love, affection, care, all those things that you want in a relationship, sometimes it's just giving it to yourself, and then you'll see that your desire for a relationship goes down. I notice that if I start overworking, I start looking for a relationship outside of myself, and then I start to see, oh wait, I'm working too much. I just need to slow down. I'm really happy being alone when I'm not overworking. But if I start overworking, then I start thinking, maybe this person, maybe that person. It's a telltale sign that I'm overworking. And so then I slow down, and then I realize, yeah, I'm good. I can give all the self-love and care to myself. So it's really important to recognize what it is that you need and ask yourself, can I give that to myself? Do I really need someone else in my life? Do I really need a relationship? Does this make sense to you guys? Beautiful. So asking yourself that question will activate your deeper intuition and your deeper knowing. I'll also sometimes when I work with clients, I'll say, how do you want to stop overgiving? What's that really about? And you can ask yourself that same question. You can ask yourself, how do I stop overgiving, and what's that about? And once you ask that, you'll see that your deeper intuition and wisdom just will start kicking in. Just trust the answers that you get moment to moment in real time. So after asking this, I've seen some clients come to the realization that their partner isn't capable of meeting what it is that they need, and that's okay. It's just time to move on from the relationship if that's the truth. What is it? Or you can ask them, I've seen this before too, you can ask them, are you willing to try? And if you're willing to try, are you willing to learn? And sometimes partners are willing to learn and they're very capable of it, and you can create a beautiful relationship. But don't expect them to be able to do that going into the relationship, because then you're just hoping that they'll be someone that they're not. And that's never a healthy place to come from. So what is it that I need that I'm not giving to myself, and how can I give that to myself? And if I can't give it to myself, can I make a request from someone to give it to me? That's the ultimate question in a relationship. What is it that I need that I'm not giving to myself, and how can I give that to myself? And if I can't give it to myself, can I make it a request from someone to give it to me? That ultimately right there, if you ask that, you're going to be good to go. You'll be able to understand what it is that you're doing in the relationship. If the relationship is worth keeping, you'll understand what you need and get what you can give and what they can give back to you. As the best, longest question that you can ask yourself or your partner. Once I asked myself that question, I stopped having relationship issues. It was really that simple. I would say 80% of life is really learning to ask what it is that we truly need and want, and not being afraid of that. In the thousands of clients I've coached, I've coached over 1,000 at this point in the last 3 years, I've found that most individuals who want fame or fortune, or who want to do all these amazing great things, and I've been guilty of this, who want to do all these amazing great things out there in the world, it's just because they want to be seen, and no one has actually truly been able to see them. Once we get seen for who we really are, and once someone actually sees us, you'll be amazed to see how much more relaxed they get. So once we're really seen for who we really are, what we want, what we desire, we relax, and life becomes much easier. That's what we want to have in our relationships. Relationships are meant to be places of refitting, refueling, and resting, so we can go back out there and do the awesome work in the world that we need to do. When we come to that place within ourselves, everything in life becomes more enjoyable. When we learn self-acceptance and love of ourselves, when we know what our needs are, when we're not afraid of asking for our needs, and then when other people help us meet our needs, if we want support along that journey, you'll find that you'll be more relaxed, and you'll enjoy your life more, and things will seem to just be smoother in all of your relationships. That's all I got for now. Thanks so much for joining me, you guys. If you like this, please share with any friends or family and subscribe. I'd like for this work to go out into the world. It changes people's lives. Also, if you want to check out the live coaching that Laura and I do every Tuesday and Thursday, we do live coaching. We coach people live. It's really a great, fun process. People have breakthroughs. They have realizations. There's crying. There's tears. There's fun. There's challenges. There's role play. There's all different types of things. So if you want to check that out, please check out the link below. It's in the description box if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching it on Instagram, it's above in that box, the bio box on Instagram. If you want, check out the Sacred Relationship series Laura and I are doing as well. We're interviewing a bunch of individuals on sacred relationships. We'd love for you to be a part of it and get some of the value there. Do you have any other questions? Feel free to reach out and comment. I am very interactive with all the comments, and if you have any trouble in relationships, in both personal but also public relationships, or even with relationships with yourself, feel free to reach out and connect, and we can have a conversation. I love doing this work, and it's my passion. That's all I got for this time, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a lovely day. I'll see you soon.